Hello and welcome to Views on News. I'm Jawad Tehami. In today's program, we are going to talk about the very significant presser by DGI SPR, Lieutenant General Ahmed Sharif Chaudhary, in which he gave the review of the overall security situation amid the resurgence of terrorism in Pakistan, most particularly in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, saying 917 terrorists were killed in over 1,000 intelligence-based operations in 2025 in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa so far. 122 civilians and 311 Pakistan Army soldiers were among 516 martyred during this particular time period. More specifically talking about the repatriation of the Afghan refugees, he said Pakistan has hosted Afghan brothers for decades, but now the state has to send them back. Unfortunately, politics is being done on this issue and a narrative is being created around it. Also talking about the factors behind a resurgence of terrorism, he has mentioned the non-implementation of the National Action Plan, politics on terrorism, use of Afghanistan as the base for the operations by the Indian proxies, terrorists possessing US weapons, and the terror crime nexus with the 5 key factors behind it. He has also mentioned the governance issue and the gaps in that particular regard in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, most particularly, which were being filled by the blood of the security personnel, and that national action plan devised with the approval of all the stakeholders has not been implemented in letter and spirit. He has also given 3 choices to the facilitators of these terrorists. The first being handing over these terrorists to the state. The second, joining hands with the state institutions. And also giving the third option, if the first 2 options don't work, the facilitators should be ready for the action of the state, saying the status quo will not work anymore. Now, more specifically, when we talk about the Kabul takeover by the Taliban back in 2021, there has been a resurgence of terrorism. On one side, as per the Doha Accord, the Afghan interim authorities had that international obligation that they won't allow the Afghan soil to be used for the terrorist activities against any other country, most particularly the neighboring countries. But this has been one of the major concerns of the neighboring countries, most particularly Pakistan, conveying continuously its concern towards the interim Afghan authorities that the banned Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, Fitna al-Khawarij, was taking safe haven on the Afghan soil, and there must be some sort of a concrete action on the part of the interim Afghan authorities. On the other hand, the interim Afghan authorities had been in the state of denial. They didn't accept that such terrorist groups were operating from the Afghanistan's soil, although Pakistan had been engaging on multiple fronts in order to impress upon the interim Afghan authorities with irrefutable evidence of the involvement of the Afghan nationals. Not only that, but also the availability of the US weapons post-international troops withdrawal at the hands of the terrorist groups. And during today's presser, he has said that Afghanistan is a neighborly Islamic country. We have historical connections, cultural connections. Pakistan has hosted Afghan refugees for 4 decades. We only say one thing to the Afghan government: do not allow your soil to be used for terrorism against Pakistan. Is it wrong to ask? It is absolutely fair, it is correct, it is rational, it is our right, and for this we also engage them at multiple levels. Yes, we do engage them, and we clearly communicate to them that these are the terrorist leaders, their facilitators, and their centers in Afghanistan. But at the same time, we are doing and will continue to do whatever is necessary to protect the lives of Pakistan's people and its territorial integrity, unquote. It is also worth mentioning over here, according to Inter-Services Public Relations statement, security forces have avenged the Orakzai attack by killing 30 Indian-sponsored Khawarij militants involved in the terrorist incident in Orakzai district. Now, this particular terror incident in Orakzai district had resulted in the martyrdom of brave sons of soil. Let me quickly bring in our panelist who is joining us through the video link to talk about the significance, the content of this particular presser by DGI SPR, and more specifically, those important and significant points which relate to the interim Afghan authorities, Afghanistan's soil being used for these terrorist activities against Pakistan by these militant and terrorist organizations. We are honored to be joined by Mr. Brigadier retired ShahidJagir. He is a senior analyst. Brigadier Jagir, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. We really appreciate that. First of all, I want your understanding regarding the overall tone of this particular presser by DGI SPR, as well as given the timing of it, and more specifically when we talk about that he has given three choices to the facilitators of the terrorists, either to hand over these terrorists to the state or join hands with the state institutions. If these two choices don't work, then the facilitators should be ready for the action of the state.
Thank you very much. Who and the possibility for comment. As far as the timing is concerned, it's very important because recently we have a meeting of master plan in which all the neighboring countries of Afghanistan and Afghan representative also represented in that, and the rising trend of terrorism which is going on. The important thing which has been highlighted in that is terrorism being used for political gain. That's very alarming, and I think this is a time has come that we have to decide that whether we need to eradicate the terrorism from the country or we want to do the politics. Politics is never done on the national interest. It is in the national interest of the country that at this moment that the terrorism must be finished, and that's why you will see you have seen very firm, calculative, and frank wording of the DGI SPR, in which he has said, he has given three choices, and rightly so, to the facilitators of these terrorists, because terrorism cannot grow in a province or at any place till the time there is a nexus between the facilitators and the terrorists. Mm-hmm. He has highlighted also the 5 points reasons for the terrorism in KPK, in which he has very rightly said that National Action Plan has not been implemented on the political side in true letter and spirit. Why it is so that the provincial government is not doing that? That's very, very alarming, because the National Action Plan was based on two prongs. One was the kinetic use and the use of the army and the police and all the intelligence agencies. And on the other hand, there was the political prong which had to be launched, which consisted of building up the narrative, socioeconomic development, getting hold of the facilitators, and things of that sort. But unfortunately, in the recent past, we have seen that the kinetic prong went very well, and as DGI SPR, and you have given the facts and figures that where we have killed almost the 3.5 terrorists per day, which is a very, very high rate and the number of intelligence-based operations being conducted, 40 operations in one day, means that there were more than one operation being conducted in 1 hour. So you can understand that how the intelligence agencies, the law enforcement agencies are engaged in eradicating the terrorism from the country.
Side
And
of
in
this particular
that,
implementation of the National Action Plan, Brigadier Jagir, has been going on very well as far as when it comes to the political side of the narrative building, the socio-economic development, and other aspects which are related to the non-kinetic side as far as the implementation of the National Action Plan is concerned. This National Action Plan, as also mentioned by DGISPR in Ispr'S, was approved with consensus by all the stakeholders. What had been, as per your understanding, the main challenges? Did it actually pertain more to the will, the political will, or were there other factors driving this particular non-implementation of the National Action Plan in letter and spirit? And if so, what sort of steps could be taken in future in order to address and overcome this particular deficiency?
First of all, there is one reason, which is the prime reason, is that the politics should not be done on the national interest. The National Action Plan was agreed by all the parties unanimously. But when the implementation stage came, a party which did not agree to take it on with heart and soul, because it was not in their interest to do that. So putting the the party interest above the national interest is very, very disheartening. Second, the flow of the funds which needs to go for the development and winning and the heart and minds of the locals, those were the flow was not continuous, as well as the will was lacking, which disturbed the local people to cooperate with the government. The third important thing was that the narrative, the political, one of the political segment was not ready to support the narrative, which was, which you can say, a national narrative. The national narrative had to be supported by all. That means the military side, the law enforcement agency side, the intelligence side, the media side, and the political leaders have to push it in whichever capacity they are. But it could not be. It could not have materialized so far. Why? Because of the to gain to cash on to the for the political gain. This is very alarming, and there is a need to that. We need to tell these leaders, the other political leaders, need to tell these that look, where it comes to the national interest, there is no if and but to.
But there shouldn't be ideally any sort of a room for politics when it comes to the national interest. You also talked of the flow of the funds for the socio-economic development that did not continue as much as it was required to. Now, more specifically talking about the capacity and the strength of the CTD, that has also been mentioned. Currently, the operational strength of KPCTD is 3,200. Is it enough? He's questioned that particular thing. What steps are required in order to address that particular issue? How to enhance the strength and the capacity of this particular department?
Look, one is the intelligence gathering, first of all. That is very important. And the government has done this thing that the ISI, the police, the FIA, the Intelligence Bureau, all all were coordinated to come to a table and under the DDISI. But somehow, because our politics dominates the police segment, so that's why that probably that heart and soul and the will which was required to be done, it was not achievable. Second important thing is that the government, all the provincial governments and the federal government has to fund these CCD with the latest equipment in terms of intelligence gathering, with the latest drones and all, which are required for intelligence gathering, and the human intelligence, which is the most important factor in the war, in any war on terror. Because these terrorists do not use the modern gadgets, they rely on the human communication. So you need to cultivate into their network your own people who give you the information. But the federal government and the provincial government probably, especially the KPK, was not able or lacking in the funding of these people. So that they are the broadly the important factors which has lacked in the wholehearted operations which have been conducted so far. I do not doubt iota of the thing that our will of the armed forces, the brave people of the police force of KPK and the brave people of the KPK is there to eradicate the terrorism from their part of the country. But the important thing is that one is that they need to be taken on board by the CTT. And second thing is which is very important, that these the Afghanis which are living in Pakistan, they need to be there's a time that they need to be said that thank you very much. We have helped you a lot because of your problem. Now your country is free and you should go back. You will.
Exactly. There are two different points. There are two very important points, Brigadier Jagir, that you've just mentioned. I'll come back to you with each of the points, your understanding separately on both of them. Firstly, when you talk about that when we try to analyze the strength, the capacity, and also the kind of availability of the weapons at the hands of the concerned law enforcement agencies and the CTD, DGI SPR has also mentioned that these terrorists are possessing the US weapons. Now, those weapons worth over $7 billion post international troops withdrawal were left readily at the hands of militant outfits and the terrorist organizations based in Afghanistan. And there has been irrefutable evidence regarding the availability of these weapons at the hands of these terrorist organizations, which have been continuously used in perpetrating these heinous acts of terrorism here in Pakistan. Now, regarding these weapons, is there any sort of a thing interim Afghan authorities could actually do, or does the responsibility of retrieving or addressing this particular issue of availability of NATO caliber weapons at the hands of the terrorists lie only with the major powers who were involved in war for 2 decades in Afghanistan?
Yes, you have pointed out a very important question, that $7 billion weapons which were left behind by the US. Pakistan has been time and again have been requesting to the Afghan government as well as to the US government also to either buy back these weapons, or the Afghan government should confiscate these weapons from these TPP people, especially from the TPP, because these weapons are a direct threat to Pakistan. Pakistan has helped Afghans for decades. And if Afghan government, initially we were saying that in your program, I said that it will take some time because the Afghan government is new. They do not have the very strong setup of police and all. But now it's a high time. It's a high time that they should harness these TPP individuals and should not look away from them, take away the weapons from them, and also put a check on them, put a check on their movement, put a check on their resources, put a check on their funding. If they are as serious as a brotherly country, but I can see
already done enough for these Afghan refugees for over many years now. Now, at the same time, there is a claim on the part of the interim Afghan authorities that their economy is growing. They've also improved security situation at home. So they must ideally be taking all these Afghan refugees back and also must be fulfilling the responsibility as per their international obligation, as per the Doha Accord, that they must not allow any terrorist outfit to operate from the Afghanistan's soil. Brigadier retired ShahidJagir, senior analyst, joining us through the video link. Thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. This particular discussion is going to continue right after a short break. For that, please stay tuned. Welcome back to Views on News. In today's episode, we are discussing that significant presser by DGI SPR Lieutenant General Ahmed Sharif Chaudhry. And to proceed with the discussion, we are honored to be joined through the video link by Mr. Zahir Shah Sherazi, is expert Afghan affairs. Mr. Sherazi, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. DGI SPR says Pakistan has hosted Afghan brothers for decades, but now the state has to send them back. And also, when we talk about his presser's mention of Afghanistan being a neighborly Islamic country, and we have had historical connections, cultural connections. Pakistan has hosted Afghan refugees for 4 decades. We only say one thing to Afghan government: do not allow your soil to be used for terrorism against Pakistan. I'll come to this last part of this particular statement, but firstly, sticking to the first one, how crucial and important it is for Pakistan to send Afghan refugees back to Pakistan, and especially when the interim Afghan authorities, most particularly when during the recently held Moscow format talks, their interim foreign minister claimed that their economy is growing, the security situation in Afghanistan is improved. Don't you think it's incumbent upon the interim Afghan authorities to take all these Afghan refugees back to their country where they belong?
Well, thank you, Jawad. I think coming back to the Moscow format, I think I did ask a question from the DGI SPR and he replied categorically. The question was that whether the Moscow format countries would be rooting out those bases of terrorism inside Afghanistan, because it was clearly mentioned that BLA, TTP, IMU, TIP, ETIM, these are all the terrorist groups which are based in Afghanistan. And if Afghan government is unable to take action, the Moscow format countries would be collectively taking these nexus of terrorism. So it means that perhaps it's a very clear message. And today, I think the DGI SPR was very open and categorically said that they would be going against the terrorists to each and every place where they are threatening Pakistan and the Pakistani state. So it's a very clear-cut message. Today, there were also reports that there was some strike in which reportedly the chief of banned TTP, Mufti Noor Wali, was killed, but it has not been confirmed by the TTP yet. Coming again back to your question that whether these Afghan refugees can be accommodated or not, the Afghan authorities are claiming perhaps Afghanistan, peace has been restored in Afghanistan, their economy is on track. But despite that, they are using the refugee issue as a bargaining chip to pressurize Pakistan. They are asking them to send them back with honor and respect. But how much respect? Because we had been asking them to these refugees would be sent back in the last 2-3 years, but still more than 2 to 3 million are still legal and illegal, they are residing in Pakistan. So perhaps we have to be very realistic. It will take time, but the way these people are involved, today data was shared that in 2025, 577 militants have been killed in more than 10,000 operations, and out of them, 57 are Afghan nationals who are involved in terrorist activities inside Pakistan. So it means like most of these refugees, we are not saying that all of them are involved in terrorism, but majority of them are providing shelter. They are sympathizing with them. Some of our own people in the tribal areas, they are also sympathizing and supporting the militant groups. So according to the DG ISPR, perhaps they have also been warned. All those elements in the tribal areas, in the settled areas, all those political entities who would be supporting or in any way sympathizing with the militants, the state would be taking and dealing them in the same way as the terrorists are. So it's a very clear-cut message because in the last almost 3-4 days, we are watching the casualties are increasing. In Aurangzeb, 13 security personnel were martyred. Same was the case in Zahir Khan. 1 or 2 officers were killed there. In North Waziristan, the militant attacks had increased. So now perhaps Pakistani security forces have decided to take them on. And you might have heard Khwaja Asif, the defense minister. He had also said that
Clear message, a loud and a clear message has been delivered, of course, to all the facilitators. You also mentioned that it's not necessary that all Afghans would be involved, but there is a considerable number that you've already mentioned as to the involvement of the Afghans in perpetrating these heinous acts of terrorism here in Pakistan. You already mentioned about that the interim Afghan authorities want to use this particular repatriation of Afghan refugees from Pakistan back to their home, back to their origin, as a bargaining chip. I'm curious what sort of, to what end this particular issue is being used as a bargaining chip as far as the interim Afghan authorities are concerned. Because Pakistan had been doing so much, even in the recent past, we have seen the upgradation of the diplomatic relations. Pakistan had been trying to engage with the interim Afghan authorities and resolve the issues through negotiations and talks and diplomacy. So why would the interim Afghan authorities use this particular issue in particular as a bargaining chip, and to what end?
You know, Jawad, there are 2 important issues. One is the TTP issue. The second is the refugee issue. And now you must have witnessed that the Afghan interim foreign minister, Muttaqi Saab, he is in India. So this is a third thing which is irritating Pakistan, because going close to India is a red line for Pakistan. And obviously India don't have a border with Afghanistan. They don't share any cultural or social or religious ties. But despite that, the Kabul interim Afghan Taliban are tilted towards India. So this is also a source of embarrassment for Pakistan. The reason why they're using the Indian card, why they're using the TTP card, obviously you feel that Pakistan, they're trying to pressurize Pakistan to help them out, to recognize them, to do more trade with them. And again, they're always disgruntled and feeling that perhaps Pakistan still wanted to use Afghanistan as their proxy battleground, but it's not the case. Pakistan has one major demand, that is to take action against the TTP, have their people back, because they are creating a lot of line and order problems for the Pakistani state. So this is a justified demand. You know, the third thing is Pakistan is not signatory to any refugee convention, and they are not bound to accommodate those legal and illegal refugees in Pakistan. The UNHCR, the UN bodies, the Western allies, I think they are equally responsible for the miseries of Afghan, especially the Afghan refugees who are living in Pakistan as well as Iran. You might have heard Iran, after this Iranian and Israeli conflict, they have sent back more than 1 million Afghan refugees back to Afghanistan. So there was no such resentment, there was no such political card. But when it comes to Pakistan, they try to use the political card, they often use the religious card. They also use some of them, like the Pashtun card. And some of our political parties, especially in the KP government, they had been very sympathizing with the Afghan refugees. They had also been demanding to hold negotiations with the interim Kabul government on the issue of TTP. So I think the political conflict and the political differences between the provincial and the central government, it is also kind of a problem which is creating law and order situation. You might have heard about the diplomat report who was saying that the federal and the provincial government's conflict has increased the cases of the incidents of terrorism in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and the tribal areas, which is a very serious issue.
Right, Mr. Sherazi, you already mentioned of Amir Khan Muttaqi present in New Delhi, the kind of statements we have seen from Indian Minister for External Affairs, in which he claims that India happens to be the well-wisher of Afghanistan. And also the kind of statement that has come from Amir Khan Muttaqi. First of all, I want your understanding regarding as to the timing of his visit to India. This happens to be the first visit of any leading figure from the interim Afghan authorities since they took over Kabul back in 2021. A well-wisher India for Afghanistan, is that for real? Because we have seen during the entire Afghan peace and reconciliation process, India clearly turned out to be a peace spoiler. How could it be a well-wisher of Afghanistan?
Well, Jawad, I think India still, after this Mumbai defeat at the hands of Pakistani security forces and the Pakistani Air Force, India is left with only one option: to use the western border as a proxy battle zone, send in the terrorists, support Fitna al-Khawarij as well as TTP, BLA, and carry out terrorist activities on the western side, especially in the tribal belt as well as in Balochistan. This is the only option, and that's why it's showing to be a well-wisher of the Afghan people. On the other hand, Afghan interim government is pressurizing Pakistan, perhaps that they wanted to go in trade with India through Chabahar. But the question is whether Iranian would be allowing again the Indians to be, seated there. Already we have heard more than 65 alleged Afghan spies. They had been, given a capital punishment by Iran for their role during the Israeli-Iranian conflict. So that option is still, I think, far from reality. Now, you might have heard also, Pakistan, China, Russia, and Iran, it is pressurizing Afghanistan to take action against the TTP, BLA, and other terrorist groups. Americans are also annoyed with them. They also want Bagram Air Base. So I think in that case, the Afghan interim government, it is trying to, come closer to India in a hope of getting some relief. But that is, a far reality. This Moscow format, I think the conference countries have categorically conveyed to India that it should not be using Afghan soil against Pakistan or any other Central Asian republics, Iran, or even Russia. And that was also a clear message. So I think the Afghan interim government, especially the Kabul Taliban, they are now in a disarray. They are facing internal conflicts. There is a serious differences between the various Taliban groups. The Haqqani group is deviating away. Gulbuddin Hikmatyar, he is also annoyed with Mullah Haibatullah's Kandari Taliban. US is annoyed with them. Russia is suspicious. China has started to, stop the development projects which it wanted to carry out in Kabul, and I think this is these are different reasons, and also perhaps Kabul feels that if they are tilted towards India, it can pressurize Pakistan and get more and maximum leverages in terms of trade, in terms of refugee repatriation. So I think they are gambling, but I think this would be a very serious. On the losing side, that Kabul administration would like to go more in detail.
I exactly get what you are trying to say at this particular point in time. They seem to be clearly on a losing end. There is clearly an established role of Pakistan around the globe. The kind of acknowledgement and recognition Pakistan has got from the international community, particularly by the major powers, as far as counterterrorism efforts are concerned, and that bloody nose that Pakistan inflicted to India in the recent standover. So with that, we come to the end of today's episode. And of course, it's time for the Afghan Taliban to introspect and in order to rectify their approach and behavior when it comes to their responsibility. If they want to be the part of the regional connectivity, they want to reap the dividends of that regional connectivity, the economic progress and development, this entire region actually looks forward to, and especially post the recently had Moscow format talks, the interim Afghan authorities need to think that they ought to fulfill their international obligations when it comes to not allowing the Afghan soil to be used against any other country, also going for an all-inclusive government, and also upholding the human rights within their territory. With that note, we come to the end of today's episode. Till the next one, take good care of yourselves.